I've been offered a tryout with Hamilton Mustangs. I gotta play junior if I'm ever gonna play pro. All the scouts are gonna be there.
Dean Youngblood scored 92 goals this year so far for the Stanton Flyers.
Get him a uniform. The doctor is here.
New uniforms for the playoffs?
Want to go, pretty boy? Come on.
You gotta play it according to their rules.
Maybe I made a mistake about you. What do you think?
If I don't sign a pro contract next couple of years, I'm through.
What if it had been you? What if it was you?
Wake up, superstar. We're in this together. You're a team, a family.
You need it here, and you never quit. Ever.
Come on, Youngblood!
Rob Lowe, cynthiagibb, Patrick Swayze, Youngblood.
Hello, hello, I'm Katie, and welcome to Retromade, your pop culture rewind. Today we're going to go back to January of 1986 for the sports drama Youngblood with our everyman Patrick Swayze, but this time he's in more of a supporting role to supporting another extreme smoke show, Rob Lowe. Lucky for you, I own this movie because it does not stream anywhere. So I'm going to be solo today. If you are new to the show, welcome. I do cover retro movies, and this season's theme is the ultimate everyman, Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell. As we're covering the movie to set the stage, I cover the TV, music, pop culture of the time. So if you have been with me along this journey, I can't thank you enough for tuning in. And this is the time where I urge you, if you haven't yet provided a review, please do so. This is your official reminder. And also, in case you have not subscribed on YouTube, head on over there to do that as well. All right, so the time capsule today is going to be a little different, but let's open the time capsule from, let's see, January 1986. Now, if you recall, we covered this exact same week. So Youngblood came out on January 30th, 1986. We covered The Best of Times with Kurt Russell, and that came out January 31st, 1986. So if you want to relive the TV goodness and the music and current events, cartoons, and all of that good stuff from that particular week and month, go listen to the Best of Times episode. So since we've literally covered the exact same week before, I do want to expand on one particular show. One notable TV show that actually premiered this season is 227. So I would love to hear from listeners who watched this show, or if this is unfamiliar. It's very familiar to me. I grew up watching the show, loved the reruns, just some kind of iconic characters. So 227 is a sitcom, and it followed the lives of people in a middle-class apartment building. And 227 comes from the address of the apartment building, and it's 227 Lexington Place. That's actually in Northeast Washington, D.C., which is a little different. We don't usually get that. We have Mary Jenkins is our main character here. That's who the show is centered around. She's really nosy, I suppose, tart-tongued, but very loving housewife, Mary, to her husband, Lester, and he's a construction worker, and they have a teenage daughter, Brenda. Now, some of the neighbors in the building, we have Pearl Shea. She's the grandma, and she's kind of annoying, but considered open-minded, and she likes to gossip a lot with Mary, and Rose Lee Holloway, who is Mary's best friend. So these are all characters who live in the building, right? And then for part of the show, she's only in the early seasons. Rose Lee Holloway has a daughter named Tiffany, and she's friends with Brenda, right? The landlord dies in the pilot episode. And so Rose takes over the place until season 4. And then you're probably wondering, well, what about Sandra? She's the very attractive and sassy, kind of vampy, dresses really provocatively, big, like she's always man hungry, always trying to, like, that's Sandra. And the way she speaks is kind of iconic. But so her name is Sandra Clark, and she shows up also. Now, I didn't know this until I was doing the research, but this series was actually adapted from a stage play written in 1978 by Christine Houston. And it's about the lives of women in a predominantly Black apartment building in the 1950s set in Chicago. But for the TV show, it was changed to present day Washington, D.C. Right? So 227 ran for 5 seasons, 116 episodes from 1985 to 1990. It was a 6.7 on IMDb. Now, one of the things I did want to point out, yes, the cast is primarily Black. In fact, I think there's only one white character that shows up, like one white main character, and he doesn't show up until the last season. So that's pretty different for this time on like a main network show. And with the exception of The Cosby Show and A Different World, 227 achieved higher ratings than any other sitcoms airing at this particular time that had a predominantly African-American cast during at least the first 2 seasons of its original run on NBC. I very much remember the theme song.
There's no place like home. With your family around you, you're never alone. When you know that you're loved, you don't need to roam, 'cause there's no place like home. Times are changing every day. We won't get by with those same old ways. No. Pulling together, we'll make it right. With help from our friends, I know we can fly. There's no place like home. With your family around you, you're never alone. When you know that you love, you don't need to roam, 'cause there ain't no place like home. There ain't no place like home. There ain't no place like, there's no place like home. I mean, no place, child.
So the theme song, it's very recognizable. There's no place like home. And it's actually performed by Marla Gibbs, who plays Mary. So she's, from Florence from the Jeffersons, and she's in a ton of things. But that's Marla Gibbs actually sings it. But we have a famous theme song person who composed it named Ray Colcord. He actually won an award for this particular theme song, the BMI TV Music Award for 227 in 1987. I didn't recall the name, but you definitely know his other work. He composed other themes for Dinosaurs, Boy Meets World, My Two Dads, The Facts of Life, Silver Spoons, etc., etc., etc. So the show was created by, I think this is also an interesting little tidbit. So Michael G. Moy is the creator's name. Actually, I think he's a co-creator, Michael G. Moy. He was credited under the pseudonym C.J. Banks. So that's the name that's credited for creating the show, because he actually disagreed with the producers over the series' tone and didn't want his real name in the credits. And he came up with the name CJ because it was the name of his college theater professor, I guess. So a little bit of drama. He wanted it to kind of remain more just like comedic, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, which makes sense when we talk about some of the other stuff that he created. Whereas some of the other producers, and I think Marla Gibbs, wanted it to be more topical. So they kind of butted heads over the subject matter and the tone of the show. But CJ Banks, the pseudonym, aka Michael G. Moy, he also created Married with Children, Silver Spoons, and he wrote on The Jeffersons, Good Times, and Different Strokes, among some other things. And then the other co-creator is Bill Bulwer. And he also created and or produced The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and The Parkers. So, all right, you guys with me so far on 227? So we talked about Marla Gibbs. She's the main character. She plays Mary. And then Hal Williams plays her husband, Lester Jenkins. And then we talked about her best friend that ends up owning the apartment building. Rosalie Holloway is played by Elena Reed Hall. And so she's very level-headed and often the voice of reason among the residents in 227. And like a lot of scenes are set on the stoop. And I kind of love that. We don't really get that anymore. We got it a little bit, I guess, in the Cosby Show. But so Rose and Mary are often seen sitting on the front stoop of the building, exchanging gossip and rumors. And then also with Pearl, but Pearl's usually just out her window. And she's like the old lady, very, very specific haircut on Pearl, but she's the grandma and she must live on the first floor because she's just talking to them through her window usually, which I think is just hilarious. It's just kind of a signature of the show. And then we talked about the kind of vampy Sandra Clark. She's played by Jackie Harry. And I think later she drops her last name and just is known by Jackie. You guys know who I'm talking about, right? And it's Jackee, and the first E has that little accent on it. So Jackie, you all know who she is. And she was the breakout star for 227 playing Sandra. And she was always, the way she would say Mary and just the way she spoke and walked with her, like shaking her hips and kind of her waddle, and always dressed really provocatively, always done up, very man crazy. And she would always say Mary in a funny way. She'd be like, Mary.
What you want, Sonia? Hi, Lester. Let's bury the hatchet. Our team made almost $1,000. I think we should share it with everybody.
Really? Well, that's very generous of you. I guess I owe you an apology.
I accept. Now, I did have to deduct some team expenses.
What team expenses?
My hairdo, my manicure, my new dress. So the way I figure it, you each owe me about $7.83.
Let's play that other game.
But anyway, so she's younger than Mary and Rose. And she and Mary, at first, the first few seasons especially, they're like, they bicker all the time. They're kind of at each other, throwing jabs, not literal jabs, verbal jabs. And, they just differ about how life should be, so their lives are very different, right? So Mary is this happily married housewife. She's got a stable lifestyle, and Sandra is seen as very stylish. I don't know, maybe a little, they say loose. I don't know, that's a weird word, but that's how it's described in the show's description. Very man hungry, somewhat ditzy, although she's not. She's actually very smart, diva type, and she's a serial dater. And yeah, her dresses are always very, very shapely to show off her shape. So that's Sandra. And then the most famous person from this show is Brenda, the daughter, Marion Lester's teenage daughter, Brenda Jenkins. She is played by Regina King, and this is her very first TV role. I love Regina King. You guys, she's in everything, and she would go on to win an Oscar for If Beale Street Could Talk in 2018. So Regina King, she's awesome. I can't believe this is her first TV role. And then the other teenage girl, Tiffany, who's Rose's daughter, so Tiffany Holloway, is played by Kia Goodwin. And she's later written out of the show. I think I read like her mom didn't like living in LA, so they wanted to move and they wrote her out of the show. And then we talked about the older lady. She's the grandma. Her name's Pearl Shea, and she's played by Helen Martin. Very recognizable. You guys know her. And then her grandson, Calvin, lives with her. And Calvin is played by Curtis Baldwin. And then another young actress, I should say, is Countess Vaughn. And she plays Alexandria DeWitt, but she was only in season 4. And she, at the time, she was playing an 11-year-old prodigy who came to live with the Jenkins while her father was on an archaeological dig in the Amazon. So that was an interesting way to have her come. And then she leaves. So she's only in the 4th season. Then I think the way they explain away her not being there anymore is that she goes, her dad's back. I don't know, goes to live with him in London. Then there's a ton of guest stars, regulars, and recurring characters in the 5th season. So in the show's final season, we have people like Tookie Smith, Barry Sobel, Stoney Jackson, Kevin Peter Hall, and Paul Winfield. They joined in the final season, I suppose, in an effort to stop or to slow down the declining ratings in that final season. But the cast additions did prove fruitless because it ended its run in the spring of 1990. And also, there's a mailman that I didn't talk about. He's actually in 18 episodes, so he's throughout the show, but not like a main character, but he's kind of a mainstay, and he's played by Ronaldo Ray. There's a ton of guest stars, which I always find fun because I didn't know who they were probably when they were on the show. And now only, looking back, you're like, oh, wow, everybody was in this. So Run DMC, Della Reese, Vanessa Bell Armstrong, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Jane Kennedy, Flip Wilson, Ron Glass, Nipsey Russell, Bobby Brown, Pee Wee Herman, Phyllis Diller, Joan Rivers, Charlotte Ray. That's Mrs. Garrett, just as an FYI. Kim Fields, also from Facts of Life. Ted Lang, Tim Reed, Robert Hooks, Denise Nicholas, John Houseman, Reginald Bell Johnson, and Jo Marie Payton. That's the mom and dad from Family Matters, but they did not play husband and wife in this. Kelsey Grammer, Nell Carter, Richard Mall, Rita Wilson, and a young Fran Drescher, who I adore. I'll get into some other little trivia type tidbits, but I did want to point out that this show did win some awards, or at least the actors and actresses did. So Jackée Harry, she won the Emmy, Primetime Emmy, in 1987, and she was nominated in 1988 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. She also was nominated in 1989 for that supporting role for a Golden Globe. And then the Young Artists Award, Regina King, Curtis Baldwin, and Countess Vaughn were all nominated. And then Regina King was also nominated in 1989 for Outstanding Youth Actress for the NAACP Image Award. So the young actresses and Jackée Harry cleaned up with the awards over the other mainstays, which I thought was really interesting that Marla Gibbs didn't get anything. Anyway, as I talked about this being in DC, you almost never see a comedy or a sitcom set in DC. If things are in DC, it's usually political or government oriented. And I actually don't even think I realized when I was a kid watching this that it was in DC until I, got a little older and started watching it in syndication. So I find that very interesting. The next one is kind of wild because it flies in the face of normal, I guess, retro aging, in that, how in the 80s and the 70s and 80s, or just back in the day, people that weren't that old looked really old. We talk about this a lot. Well, this is kind of the reverse. So Marla Gibbs, playing Mary, the main character, was 54 years old when this show started. And I just think that's a really odd example because I think she looks way younger than that. I would have guessed her to be in her 40s, playing like a 40s housewife. And maybe I actually don't know how old her character is supposed to be, but Marla was 54 when the show started. And then Sandra Clark was never intended to be a regular character. She was added to the cast after she tested really positively with audiences, and she ended up going on to win the awards and became the breakout star. And to that point, and it's funny because their characters would verbally jab each other. And so there was a lot of rumor, I guess, that Marla and Jackée did not get along. But Marla has said in an interview that there wasn't actually any feud despite those rumors. I didn't realize this either. So in 1987, when she won the Emmy, she was actually the first African American to win a supporting actress in a comedy series. Emmy. 1987. Interesting. So, yes, Rose Holloway's daughter, Tiffany, played by Kia Goodwin. She was a regular cast member in season 1. And then in season 2, her role was significantly reduced. And then by season 4, she inexplicably disappeared and was never seen or referred to again in the show, which is weird. I don't know why they didn't, because later that Countess Vaughn character, they wrote into the storyline why she wasn't there anymore. So it's really weird. And this is reminiscent of where they're just like not there anymore and nothing is said about it. Chuck Cunningham on Happy Days and Judy Winslow on Family Matters. Do you remember how there just wasn't another younger sister anymore after a while? Same story. Well, they thought that Jackée Harry had enough cachet to give her a spinoff series. So there was a pilot for it, but it failed. That series didn't ever air, I don't think. But that episode, the pilot episode for Jackée, that's what the show is called, is included in the package, like the syndication package. So that's interesting. I don't think I've seen that episode. And then the woman who plays Rose, Elena Reed Hall, is actually married to, in real life, or was, Kevin Peter Hall, and he played a recurring character, Warren Merriweather, in the final season. So they're a real-life married couple. Yeah, 227, you guys. Just wanted to share some memories of that. And my biggest memory of this show and why I kind of wanted to cover it is that I think it was on the same night as Golden Girls, Saturday nights for a while. I think both shows probably moved around their nights a little bit. But when I was little and my parents went out of town, I stayed at my grandma and grandpa's house. And yeah, so it would have been over a weekend. So Saturday night, I was like camped out in like blankets or sleeping bags on the living room floor and watching whatever my grandparents were watching that night. So the NBC lineup included both 227 and Golden Girls. And I vividly remember watching both of those shows all cozy on the living room floor of my grandparents' house and them laughing at, the sitcom stuff and me not probably getting most of the sexual innuendo in either show. So yeah, that's my memory. What's yours of 227? If you want to, relive some of it, it is currently airing. You can watch it on Tubi and Pluto, and those are both free. And then I think if you have a subscription, you can also watch it on Hulu and Disney Plus. So that's 227, you guys. Now, shall we get into Youngblood? Okay, now the elephant in the room is that I am shocked that no guest has chosen this movie yet. And we're nearing the end of season 1 with Patrick and Kurt. So there's probably only a handful of episodes left. And this is one of them. And I'm shocked because I grew up watching Youngblood. And then regular guest and host of One More Round the Rocky series podcast, Ryan Rebalkin, he's never seen it, nor has co-host Kyle. They're both Canadian and super into hockey. And this movie's about hockey. So it's wild to me. Plus Rob Lowe's in it. And cynthiagibb, if you're a dude, I guess everyone loves her. She's very like girl next door-y. She has that like sweet, innocent, cute look to her. I wouldn't say hot. I'd say she's cute. Anyway, I am shocked that no one has chosen Youngblood. So here I am covering it solo. And maybe that's why, because nobody can watch it. It's hard to watch, meaning it's not streaming anywhere. It's actually very easy to watch. And I highly recommend it, you guys. If you haven't seen Youngblood, watch it and then come back because there will be spoilers. I'm going to talk about it. But it was released January 30th, 1986, and it is rated R. And the IMDb rating here is a 6.2 out of 10. I feel like a lot of stuff has been hovering in that range the last several episodes, like high 5s, low 6s. A lot of stuff seems to be in that range lately. All right, well, if you haven't seen Youngblood, or if it's been nearly 40 years, A 17-year-old farm boy is offered an ice hockey tryout. His brother drives him to Canada. He has fast legs, slow fists, but is chosen. Will he learn to use his fists and play ice hockey the Canuck way? Will he get the coach's cute daughter? All right, the director here is Peter Markle, and he was also one of the writers, but I didn't realize this, was a former pro hockey player. We'll touch on that in a little bit. And then not a lot of like major motion picture directing, but he has a lot of credits that are TV episodes and also TV movies. So credits for directing those. And then, like I mentioned, he was one of the writers. The other writer was John Whitman, and this is his only writing credit. I always find that really interesting. What happened? What's up? All right, so technically, like I mentioned, Patrick is not our main lead. It's Rob Lowe, so no complaints here. He plays Dean Youngblood, the 17-year-old. I wonder how he had to have been in his 20s. Actually, yeah, I think he was in 1986. He would have been like, I don't know, 22, 23, playing a 17-year-old, which, whatever, it's the 80s. That's how it went. And then Cynthiagibb plays his love interest. She plays Jessie. And what's interesting about her is that she's known and everybody knows who she is, but she's not really been in a lot. I think she never really got like super famous, but she was in the TV series Fame and also the movie Short Circuit 2, but otherwise known for the cute girl in Youngblood. I don't know. I'm sure she's in a bunch of other stuff. She's not famous, but Patrick Swayze is in a ton of stuff. He's one of our ultimate everymen. On season 1 of Retromade, he plays Derek Sutton, and he's kind of I don't know if they ever say it, but I would say he's the captain of the team. He's the best player basically in the league, and he's probably the captain. But Derek Sutton is Patrick Swayze. Now, he and Rob Lowe also were in another movie together. Does anybody remember? They played brothers just a few years prior in The Outsiders. I like it. I mean, they're both very handsome. Okay, so the coach, Cynthiagibb, who plays Jessie, is the coach's daughter and also love interest of the rookie hockey player. So, there's going to be some stuff going on there. Ed Lauter plays the coach, Murray Chadwick. Yes, so he's the coach and also Jessie's dad. You all very much know who he is. He's super recognizable guy. Although it's weird you can't pinpoint what you've seen him in, but you definitely know him. He has over 200 credits going back to the 60s. Yeah, one of his major credits was Cujo, but I've only seen it once, and it was a long time ago. Okay, also, this movie is it's great for the ladies because there are 3 prominent, super hot dudes. The third one is Jim Youngs, who plays Kelly Youngblood, Dean's older brother. And I always remembered watching Youngblood and thinking that the brother was super hot, but never realizing until now, doing the research for today's show, why he looks familiar. His other most famous credit is playing Chuck, the dickhead boyfriend of Laurie Singer in Footloose. You guys, he really is. He has that look to him, but he's very nice looking. And then the boy's dad, so Dean and Kelly's father, his name is Blaine Youngblood. He is played by Eric Nestorenko. Does that sound familiar to anyone? It didn't to me because I'm not into hockey. I don't dislike it. I actually like watching it. I just don't know that much about it. He is an actual professional hockey player. So he played 21 seasons in the NHL with mostly for the Chicago Blackhawks, but also the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I noted that, so he died in 2022 in Vail in Colorado. So yeah, Eric Nestorenko. Now, the kind of the bad guy of the movie, Racky, he's the rival team's enforcer, and he's like super rough, like cheap shots, doesn't necessarily play by the... Anyway, we'll get into it. But his name is Racky, Carl Racky. And he's played by George Finn. And he only has 2 credits. This and 1981's The Dozens, which probably was another hockey movie because he was a former major junior player and enforcer in the OHL. Is that Ontario Hockey League? What is OHL? Anyway, okay, so then there's some fun scenes with Miss McGill. She is the owner of the boarding house where a lot of the young recruits stay while they're living in this little town in Canada. She's played by Fionnuala Flanagan. Yep, she's an Irish actress, definitely. And she won an Emmy for 1976's Rich Man, Poor Man. And she was also in the movie Four Brothers. And I can picture who she is. I think she's like their adopted mother. You guys have seen Four Brothers, right? Yeah, Tyrese and Mark Wahlberg. Who else is in it? Anyway, it's 4 adopted brothers. And she's the mom, I think. And she was also in The Others. Did I mention that? Okay. Then a character who I kind of liked in the movie, Frasier. He's the trainer and acts as like the doctor because there's no doctor. So he stitches them up. He shoots them up with cortisone. He fixes them up. He's the trainer and he can't see very well. So that's fun. He's played by Ken James. And the last movie that he was in was Cinderella Man. He didn't look familiar to me, but he was good. He was really good. And then some of the other players, we have Huey Hewitt. He was one of the main players on the team. He was played by Peter Fawcett and not really well known. But he looks familiar for some reason. And Heaver is the goalie, and he is played by anyone who's seen this? Keanu Reeves in his very first feature film role. And he and Patrick would go on later to star in Point Break from 1991 together. We covered that, so go listen to that episode too, in addition to The Outsiders. And let's see, what was the other rec I had for you? Oh, the same that came out in the same week, The Best of Times. So if you guys haven't listened to those episodes, please do so. Then one more person that we'll talk about, the assistant coach. The reason I want to talk about him because he voiced Mario. So the assistant coach is played by Walker Boone, and he voiced Mario in 1990's The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 and 1991's Super Mario World TV series. I did not watch those, but I thought that was interesting. The music here is William Orbit, composer and record producer. I would say he's more famous for his record producing than his composing on movies, probably, but he did compose this. He's famous for his collaborations and productions with a ton of people, including Prince, Belinda Carlisle, Madonna, Britney Spears, Pink, U2, Ricky Martin, Sarah McLachlan, Queen, and Robbie Williams. And, he worked with Beck. They wrote a song for Pink called Feel Good Time, which I guess William Orbit then produced for the soundtrack for the 2003 film Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. And then Madonna's multi-Grammy winning 7th album, I didn't realize that was her 7th album, Ray of Light. He produced that. So he's a legit dude, this William Orbit. All right, so Youngblood cost $8 million to make, and it made $15.5 million at the box office. So I would say that's mediocre, and the critics didn't love it. They said it was derivative. That sounds very criticky to say, right? But it did become a very popular VHS rental and had quite the cable TV run. And that's how I came upon it, right? So in our handy dandy Memorex VHS cabinet with all of our taped movies, that was one of them. So I grew up watching and loving this movie. Ugh, you guys, I'm going to talk about it. So I suggest you watch it, or if you don't mind spoilers, here we go. It's quite cute how it opens because we're seeing through a grainy, well, I guess it would have been in the 70s, like home video camera of little kids, little boys playing ice hockey on just like a local pond. So that's how we open on this frozen pond. Then we cut to an 80s super synthy music and a close up of a skate on ice. And then we see that it's Rob Lowe and it's dark. He's just playing like by himself. He's just like, I don't know what you call it. He's scooting the puck around with his stick, skating, like solo though. And so that's where we get our opening credits. Kelly, the older brother, we meet him right away because Dean and Kelly live on a farm in New York. And I can't believe I never realized that he was Lori Singer's dickhead boyfriend until now. But this movie's super stacked with the hots. So Kelly, the older brother, you're like, well, why is he not playing hockey? He did. And his career ended because he got an injury to the eye, causing him to be blind in one eye. So Dean is talking to his dad and his brother at the breakfast table, saying that he wants to go to this tryout in Canada. You know, I'm never going to get in the pros if I don't get on this minor league team first. But the dad's like, no. So there's no mom. We learn later she left them some time ago. He's like, I can't afford to hire somebody to take your place. So the older brother offers to pick up his slack. And then, okay, well, now they're off in this blue GTO across. We see them cross the bridge over Niagara Falls, and he drops them off in this little town in Canada where the Mustangs tryouts are. Apparently, the Mustangs only need one player. So there's an entire tryout for one player, and it's down to Racky, who we learn is 6 feet tall, weighs 198 pounds, super rough, dirty player. And we also learn, so they're like telling us his stats. He has a shit ton of penalty time. Then it's between Racky and then major contrast with Dean, who is 5 feet 10, 160 pounds, and has like hardly any penalty time. He can't fight to save his life, but he's very, very fast. So he's not used to being roughed up. So which do they choose? Of course, they pick Dean. He gets the spot, which royally pisses Racky off. And so for some reason, this was kind of confused. So Racky comes in, he's telling them off, and then he rushes out into the hallway, out the door. And Dean follows him, and he's in his towel. He's just in a towel. For some reason, he steps out into the hallway. The reason is because we need this next scene, which I'm going to tell you guys about. He's in a towel, and it falls off. He does have a jock strap on, but he's facing like away from us. And here comes Jessie, so she can see him and his beautifulness with just his jock strap on. And so they have a cute little interplay. That's how they meet. He doesn't yet know who she is. So she is the cute daughter of the coach, as he learns later. So yeah, wouldn't you know it? That's what happened. So that's why it was written that way, I'm pretty sure. Then we cut back to the locker room. The existing team is doing their thing in the locker room, working out, showering, all the things. And we see Patrick Swayze in the locker room or weight room or whatever it was, aka Derek. His name's Derek. And he's lifting weights shirtless. So far, so good. This movie is hitting all the buttons for the ladies. I guess cynthiagibb for the men, but also hockey, I guess. So who doesn't love this movie? I can't believe you guys haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, if you have, you must tell me. Okay, so the other thing is that in this tryout, so while Dean does get picked, he gets his ass kicked by Racky and needs like 6 stitches above his eyebrow. And there's no doc. It's just the trainer. And he picks like a sewing pin cushion to find the right needle for stitching someone up. And he can't thread the needle. He's like, I'm fine once I thread the needle, but you're going to have to thread the needle for me. And he's like, oh, P.S. it's going to hurt because I'm out of Novocaine. So these are the fun little scenes that add to the movie's charm, I think. Okay, so now he's on the team. And wouldn't you know, there's some hazing to be done. He gets his balls shaved with a straight razor by the team. I guess that's one of the things they do. I don't know. I mean, good for cynthiagibb later, maybe? I don't know. Next, we're joining Rob Lowe, aka Dean Youngblood's world now. He's a 17-year-old kid. I keep forgetting because he doesn't look 17. He goes to the boarding house where he's going to stay. And Miss McGill, who owns it, and Miss McGill, she's like a very sexy, sexual, like she's dressed in short shorts, showing him up the stairs, but she's probably supposed to be in her 40s. I think she looks a little older than that, but again, this is in the 80s, so she's could even be late 30s, but she's probably in her 40s. And so she shows him to his room, then she brings tea. And this is a thing that apparently she does with all the players to welcome them, is they have tea with Miss McGill, and that includes sex. So that's also fun. And then they tease him later at the bar that, oh, nothing's better than tea with Miss McGill other than hockey or something like that. So it's really fun. And then now they're at the bar having beer with the team, and they do tequila shots, and he coughs. They're like, God, you need to like grow up or, something like that. They keep doing more and more and more tequila shots. So they get him wasted so that he has a really hard time at practice the next day. Like they're all like throwing, after a certain point, they're all throwing their shots over their shoulder, not drinking them. But Dean is. So he's super wasted. They also invite, by they, I mean the leader of the group, Derek. He's very much the leader of these guys. And he's probably the oldest one too, as we learn. One of the guys has dentures. And so they invite these girls over to sit with them, and the girls have Bloody Marys. They distract the girls and put one of the players' dentures in the Bloody Mary so that she drinks it. Ew, ugh, oof. I'm still really grossed out by it. But so they're playing pranks. We see prankiness and just the antics of this hockey team. And they're pretty close. But the next morning practice is poor Dean is like major struggle bus. And he kind of gets in trouble with the coach. Like, oh, why did I pick you if this is the best you can do? The other thing I noted at this, we get maybe like 2 lines from Keanu Reeves in this. And he says, I can't even really remember what he says, but it's a French accent and it's awful. So yeah, it's a good thing he didn't have more lines because it's really bad. After this first practice, now we're at a scene at night. Again, very small town. He walks by the movie theater, and here comes Jesse coming out of the theater. So they talk, they meet, and they go into this bookstore together. And she's like, oh, I'll buy you a book. She buys him Moby Dick. First, I don't know why. And he also, when they're checking out, she doesn't see this, but he picks like a pornographic book. It's called Nympho. He's like, this one too, he says to the cashier. So now he's got like a bag with his books, and they come back out on the street, and the dad, the coach, is there. And that's when he learns that Jessie is the coach's daughter. And he's like, oh yeah, she bought me a book. And he grabs in his bag and holds up a book, and it's not Moby Dick. It's the Nympho book. So that's really embarrassing. It's cute. Again, there's all these cute little things like that. And so then there's a lot predictable in this movie, but I still quite enjoy it. She goes, I don't think it's a good idea if we see each other, which automatically makes their romance the B plot of the movie when somebody says that in a movie. And then the next scene I love this kind of stuff in sports movies. We get a scene before a big game, like their first game that Dean's going to be in. It's the locker room scene of just the reality of how this is in junior hockey. The trainer's shooting up one of them, like an injury with a cortisone shot. There's fans, like lady fans. So Derek he eats the flower off of a rose that a fan gave him. And, the game's going well. Dean is he plays really well in the game, and he's proving himself to the team. But the coach does bench him for dating the daughter, even though technically they're not dating yet. But of course they end up dating. And there's a sex scene in his room. So they go out ice skating together. That's their date, and kind of get in trouble, like ice skating amongst like elderly people. And anyway, they go back to his room and sit on his bed, and it's super squeaky. Like the springs, the frame of the bed makes it super squeaky. So they just take the mattress off the frame, put it on the floor, and somehow his room in this boarding house has its own private fireplace. So it's like this perfect stage for their sex scene. And they have it's a pretty good sex scene, I guess. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like they're very into each other. But what's funny about it is that we keep cutting back and forth between them. It's a sensual. It's not, yeah, it's like a sensual sex scene. And Miss McGill is all excitedly downstairs getting a tea tray ready because she wants to go have sex with him. And so she's getting tea ready. She's all dolled up in a sexy, I don't know, nightgown or something. And so we keep cutting back and forth. So we're anticipating what's going to happen. So she comes up with the tea, even has a cherry in some whipped cream on the tea tray for some reason. And that's the cherry on top. She doesn't knock or anything. She just walks in the room and sees them together and is super disappointed. And it takes her like a really long time to process it. And then she doesn't say anything. She just sets the tray down and leaves. And then they notice. And yeah, they're like, oh, sweet, room service. So then Dean is telling Patrick's character Derek about this the next day at Derek's, I guess, apartment, which is hilarious because it's super bachelor patty. It has outdoor furniture. It's huge. It's this very 80s open space, just an open concept kind of industrial type. And it even has this hockey game where they're hitting goals against this goalie. But so they're bonding. We're just showing they're getting close, becoming friends. They're bonding, talking about this. And Dean still has his stitches, and they apparently have a game against their rival, the Bay City Bombers, I want to say. And we'll learn who's on that team, but they're known for being really rough players. And if they see the stitches, they'll try and open it up again. So Derek is like, oh, let me take your stitches out. I've only had a couple cases of beer. No worries. He takes the stitches out. This is also where we learn that Derek is talking to Dean. They're talking about their love of hockey, how they got into it. And Derek expects to be the number 1 draft pick for the NHL because he's been busting his ass in this minor league for 4 years. So again, learning this, him saying that is never a good omen in a sports movie when the best player is just, doom to come, right? All right. So now we're at this away game with the Bay City Bombers. So it's funny. The crowd is super hostile. They're like throwing things at the coach. They're super trash talking the players and everything. Oh, and it turns out, guess who's on this team now? Guess who picked up Racky? The Bay City Bombers did. So if they weren't a rough enough team already, now they have this dirty player, Racky, that is known for his penalty time. So I kind of know, but don't know that fighting is a part of hockey, or at least it maybe used to be. I don't know if it still is. I wish I knew more about hockey. I do like it. I just don't go to games very often. But apparently fighting must, or at least in movies, I don't know, or maybe back in the day, it was very much encouraged, seemingly, because once a fight does break out, the coaches are like, they like signal to their bench, like everybody get out there. So both benches get out, and it's just, I don't understand how this works. Like, how long do they let it go? Because the refs are just like, like letting the teams fight for however long. So I don't know. It's fun. I find that fun. The fans are throwing trash on the ice, and then they're trash talking. Coach Chadwick actually gets in an actual fist fight with a fan and gets thrown out of the game. All right. So the doomy music comes on when Racky gets put in. He immediately goes after Derek, because he's their main player. He's like the center or whatever, but he's also the best player. And Racky's playing super dirty, but the refs don't call anything. They either don't see it or they don't call it. I guess it proves the point, or makes all the more sense when earlier, when we are meeting this team, this rink, the coaches see the 3 refs come skating into the arena and they're like, oh, there's the 3 blind mice. And I learned later that that's an actual thing that people used to say, or maybe they still do, about refs. But one in particular, they know these people, they play often, and these are the same refs. And so they know them by name. At any rate, there's growing animosity between Racky and Derek during this game. And at one point, after Youngblood scores a goal, and it's not during gameplay, there's just the team is like celebrating the goal. Racky blindsides Derek and then sweeps his feet from under him with his stick. And then that causes Derek to fall backwards and hit his head hard on the ice because he pushes him forward, then he sweeps him back. And in doing that, his helmet had come off. So he's laying there, not moving, blood, not good. And so he's now in the hospital with a metal plate in his head. And now we come back to the home. So this was an away game. So we see like it's at night. They're on their bus. They're getting back to the locker room and they're all like, they're pissed. They clearly lost. Or I don't even know if they lost, but their teammate got seriously injured and could have died and ended his career. So they're all bummed out, putting their gear on the hooks. And the coach comes in. He's like, no, guys, don't put it away. Put it on. Get back on the ice. We're going to practice. Because he's not happy with how they played. And he just essentially they got pushed around by this other team. And Dean is like, what the hell? Why? No. And for the first time, he doesn't actually want to play. For the first time in his life, is what he tells Jesse. He doesn't want to play. And he walks off. He quits the team. He has all this guilt about not, he hasn't been fighting. And he hasn't really, I guess he could have gotten to Racky. This is, in his head, his guilt, he feels like he could have gotten to Racky before Racky got to Derek, etc. But he's now off the team. So now we're back at the farm, which is great because now we get some Kelly scenes. And Kelly gives him a really hard time because Kelly would do anything to have the opportunity that Dean has. But he only has one working eye. So they won't let him play. He's like, I would do anything to have your spot. So he gives him a really hard time for throwing that opportunity away. And for a little bit, we see them just doing farmy things. Some really great scenes of them being hot, doing those farmy things. Kelly especially, he looks like he looks like a hot farmhand, but Dean does look out of place, and he's not very good at it. So they're reading in the paper about how their team is now losing without their two star players, without Dean or Derek. So Kelly now takes it upon himself to teach Dean how to fight. There's the barn has a heavy bag and there's a speed bag. And so that we get a little Rocky-esque montage cutting between hockey drills and sequences of him learning how to fight on the speed bag and the heavy bag. But he doesn't actually get any practice fighting a person until the dad comes to show him how to handle himself in a rink on the ice. And he's like, it's one thing to hit the heavy bag. It's another thing to survive on the ice when you're on your skates, when they're fighting back, when they have their sticks, real opponents, etc. So Dean's like, why didn't you help me before? And the dad admits that he doesn't want yet another son to get seriously injured. So that's the end of the second act montage. Now we see Dean just shows up at the final game. So this final game, it was a series against the Bay City Bombers, I think, like a 3-game series. So it's the final. So only a few days must have passed while he's back at the farm learning to fight, right? Only a couple days between games or something. So he shows back up at the final game and asks if he can play, well, I guess he gets to. So I did notice, though, you guys, I want to point out a movie mistake at this point. So while he is in the hallway of the arena with Coach begging him to let him suit up, we hear the loudspeaker of the lineup being announced, and it does announce 2 players that aren't actually playing. It announces number 9, Derek Sutton, in whatever position he plays, and also Hewitt, the other main player. He was disqualified. Somehow Racky was not disqualified, but Hewitt was I think he threw a puck at the ref for like being a shitty ref. Anyway, he got disqualified and is sitting out the game. He's watching from the stands, but Derek Sutton, he says he's not going to watch the game because he's never watched a game of hockey before in his life, and he doesn't want to start now. I think the game has already started when Dean sees his dad and his brother come into the stands. So that makes him smile. But he is benched. So the coach is like trying to teach him a lesson. I get it. If I were a coach, I'd probably do the same thing. But into the second period, Dean is benched. But when he gets in, he does score right away. And Racky gets in immediately and goes straight after him with a super cheap shot. And he knocks a tooth loose or something, like his mouth is bleeding. So the doc, aka the trainer, is like, oh, there's no nerve damage. We'll just put a cap on it so he can keep playing. So now we're in the third period and everyone is growing pretty frustrated that so far Dean still has not used his newfound fighting skills to keep Racky off his back. He does score, tying up the game. So now the game is tied just when Racky comes in and trips him with the stick. And for once, the ref actually calls it, giving him a penalty shot with 3 seconds left in the game. I love this kind of stuff in sports movies. So he, of course, makes it. So now they're winning the game, but there technically is still 3 seconds left. So there's a final play, and it would be Racky up against Dean, puck off, whatever it's called. And the coach is like, no. He sends somebody else in because he doesn't want Dean to get hurt either. But Dean feels like he still has something to prove. He's like, the game's not over. It's not over for me. So he insists on staying in the game to play those last 3 seconds. But of course, there's a fight that happens between Dean and Racky. They're like, let's go. Essentially, that's all of the final 3 seconds of the game is that they just throw they're fighting now. And Dean sure went from zero to hero pretty fast because now he's inexplicably able to knock down Racky, who is notorious for his fighting abilities and also has 40 pounds on him. Anyway, the fight, instead of both teams engaging and fighting against each other, it's sort of just like a match between Dean and Racky. Everybody's just got a circle around them. The Mustangs, Dean's team, does win. He scored I think he scored all 3 goals, which should have been a hat trick, right? It wasn't mentioned anyway. So they carry him off the ice. Yay, sports movie. They carry him off the ice in victory. And he sees Jessie, calls her name. And then we kind of cut to a scene where everybody's gone and it's just him on the ice. It's like evening time. And then some little boys come in to play hockey in the empty arena. And they ask for Mr. Youngblood's autograph. And he's really sweet with them, asking them questions. And Jessie sees this adorable scene. And it's a happily ever after with a kiss. She tells him that she loves him. So, end credits roll. There we go. That's Youngblood. I did learn a few things. I didn't realize that the writer and director Peter Markle used to be a player. Well, I guess this was loosely based on some of his experiences. And when he filmed the ice hockey scenes, he worked while on ice skates. So that's kind of fun. The filming took place in the East End of Toronto in the summer of 1984. Cinematographer Mark Irwin wore skates also and a helmet and devised a special rig for shooting hockey scenes on the ice. Something that hadn't been done before. So it was, I guess, pretty novel how they shot some of the scenes. Now, you're probably wondering, do these people really play hockey? Can they really skate, or was it all body doubles? Well, Keanu Reeves, who played the goalie, he does have hockey experience. Upon being cast, he was the MVP for either 2 different sources, either a high school in Toronto or De La Salle's college team. He was also goaltender there, and he got the nickname The Wall. Oh, I did also want to point out, I forgot one thing, that when Dean is doing his penalty shot, the goalie, there's a cool scene of the goalie like stretching and warming up, getting ready for this penalty shot. And, he's in, I don't even know if they still are geared up like this, the super big pads, and he's doing splits on the ice. It's kind of cool. Anyway, I thought that was cool. I don't know if that's normal, if all goalies do that, but I thought that was pretty cool. Somebody let me know. So Keanu Reeves could play hockey, clearly. Patrick Swayze had been trained as a figure skater, but he had never played hockey. But yeah, I mean, he can do anything. So, P.S., if you want to check out my coverage from him in a roller skating movie, his first role ever, Skate Town, USA, it's quite wild. Rob Lowe, though, odd that the main character in this movie he had to learn how to ice skate. He didn't know how to before. And he did say later that he hated it. He says, I don't like any sport where you're already exhausted when you're done putting on the equipment. But that said, once I got the equipment on and was out on the ice, I loved that. I loved hitting people, being hit, skating. I loved the exertion and the competition. So that was all great, but it's a lot of work putting all of that shit on. Give me a surfboard and let me just paddle into the ocean. So yeah, I concur. I agree, Rob, although I can't surf. So, well, maybe I can. I've never tried. Now, we did talk a little bit about the dad, Eric Nestorenko, that he was a former Blackhawks center. He wasn't originally cast to play Dean and Kelly's dad. Another actor was actually cast and he dropped out of the film. And Eric Nestorenko was actually the hockey consultant on the movie. And so they were like, well, do you want to play the dad? So he did. And I thought he was really good. I quite liked him. And I also learned that the scene where Racky jumps Sutton, Patrick Swayze, on the ice, that was actually based on a real life incident where a Minnesota North Stars player cracked his head open on the ice and tragically died. In the film, Sutton also suffers a skull fracture with his career uncertain after. And you guys, again, Patrick Swayze can do everything. And we talked about it in the Dirty Dancing episode that he sings. Actually, he had some songs in Roadhouse too. But Rob Lowe said in a recent Joe Rogan interview that Patrick Swayze begged him to put the song She's Like the Wind in Youngblood. Okay, so this is 1986. And he's like, well, I mean, this is a hockey movie, so I'm not really sure it fits. But he said he wasn't surprised at all when it did finally pop up in Dirty Dancing just a couple years later. He also wasn't surprised that it went to number 1 on the Hot Billboard 100 charts. There was also a woman that played Derek's girlfriend in this movie, and the actress that played her, Jessica Steen, I guess she spent 2 weeks filming scenes playing his girlfriend, but all of those were cut in the final release of the film. I wonder why. That's curious. Oh yeah, I said the Bay City Bombers. It's the Thunder Bay Bombers. I apologize. Is the name of the rival team featured in this film? Well, this is a fictional depiction of the Philadelphia Flyers, I guess, whose nickname was the Broad Street Bullies. And the 1976 Stanley Cup Final was an inspiration for the movie as well. And I do remember hearing about I don't know if it was exactly 1976, but in the 70s. So Kyle, who is a co-host with me and Ryan, the main host on the Rocky series podcast, One More Round, and he has brought this up before that they were known for playing really rough. And some team, maybe it was Russia or some team, refused to come out for the third period. But yeah, Broad Street Bullies, Philadelphia Flyers. Who knew? You all probably did know that. I didn't. And then so Rob Lowe, who's very pretty and does not look at all like a hockey player, but I'm glad he's in this movie. But Markle, director and writer, did not want him in this movie. Not that he had anything against Rob Lowe. It's just he's too pretty. And I think he gets that a lot. He's considered too pretty. He actually wanted to have a real hockey player in the movie instead, which I could see both points of view on this. MGM is who insisted on Rob Lowe being in the movie. It probably does get more butts in the seats. But because of that, because he's very pretty and he thought Rob Lowe is more suited to more lighter comedic type roles. The movie was originally a lot harder with rougher edges. So Markle had to soften the movie, adding lighter moments, which I actually appreciated a lot of the lighter moments. It really added to the movie. And, more romance, some interludes to make it fit Lowe a little bit better. Evidently, players and coaches going into the stands and getting into fights it was not an uncommon occurrence during hockey games through the 70s and 80s, which we see when Coach Chadwick beats up the heckler in the stands for throwing garbage. This is a fun tidbit. I didn't catch it, but actor Adam Baldwin is actually in a short scene in this movie. And again, this is maybe my 5th recommendation for other episodes to go listen to, but we talked about Adam Baldwin in Next of Kin, that episode. So I guess he is a member of the Mustangs coaching staff because he can be seen wearing a Mustangs hat, and trying to hold back Racky after he punches Youngblood in the face during tryouts. But he's not credited in the role. And wouldn't you know it, do you guys have any idea where I'm going to go with this? There was supposed to be a remake of Youngblood. Aircraft Pictures and Dolphin Entertainment were to produce Charles Officer's remake of Youngblood, with Photon Films handling the distribution. Filming was actually set to start in Canada in 2023. Maybe you guys know, I could not find any updates, so I'm assuming that this never happened. But if anybody knows otherwise, please let me know. All right, you guys. Youngblood, man. Who else loves it? It's so fun. It's really good. There's something for everyone. Hockey, sports, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, dude that plays Kelly, Keanu's in it, cynthiagibb. It's so fun. I love it. Who else loves it? Please, please, please let me know. Don't forget, you can do that by emailing me, retromadepodcast@gmail.com, or you can, there's comments on YouTube, rating and review. There's a lot of ways you can get in touch with me. So please do so. And like I said, I did love seeing the abundance of pretty men in this movie. It is now time to return to the present day reality. Until next time, be kind, rewind.